All right, let's just jump straight into this explainer, because today we are completely rethinking what self-discipline actually means. Seriously, if you've been carrying around all this guilt about being quote-unquote lazy, you can just drop it right now. We're going to deconstruct all those massive misconceptions you've heard about willpower, and I'll show you exactly how to build ironclad consistency. And the best part? We're going to do it without that miserable burnout.
I mean, think about it. Have you ever promised yourself that you were finally going to change, and then, just a few days later, the whole thing completely falls apart? Yeah, same here. We have all had those Sunday night moments, right, where we swear we're going to wake up at dawn, hit the gym, study for hours, and finally crush all our procrastination. But when we actually try brute forcing it like that, it almost always leads to hitting a rapid, super frustrating wall of burnout.
So we desperately need a paradigm shift here. There's this toxic idea, let's call it the discipline myth, that says you have to be this emotionless machine just suffering every single day, pushing a boulder up a hill no matter how exhausted you feel. But the reality, it's so different. Real discipline is not about being perfect. It's definitely not about punishing yourself. It's actually just about creating really smart, low-friction systems that make it incredibly easy to keep going, especially on your absolute worst days.
So, to get you to that reality, we're going to cover 5 things today. 1. Shrink your focus. 2. Lower the barrier. 3. Environment over willpower. 4. Accept bad days. And 5. The power of boring.
Starting right off with number 1, shrink your focus. And honestly, just stop trying to change everything overnight.
Look, we all know the list. You're going to wake up at 5 a.m., work out every day, study for 6 hours, eat flawlessly, meditate, read books, and absolutely quit social media. It is the classic delusion of trying to become a completely different person by tomorrow morning. And honestly, when you attempt an absurdly long list all at once, you're pretty much doomed. Discipline feels impossible in that moment, but not because you're inherently lazy. It's because your brain is just totally overloaded. You're trying to carry an entire new personality all at the exact same time, which is, quite frankly, biologically exhausting.
So, the fix here is to shrink your focus down to just one main thing. Think of your attention like a magnifying glass focusing sunlight. If you're just waving it around everywhere, nothing happens, right? But if you hold it on one single spot, like maybe just improving your grades or just fixing your sleep schedule, your energy suddenly becomes incredibly potent. The most disciplined people out there, they aren't doing everything at once. They are mastering one priority at a time before even thinking about moving on to the next.
Okay, moving to number 2. Lower the barrier. Make the task so insanely small that you simply can't avoid it.
Because here's the thing, if a goal feels too big, your brain literally treats it as a threat and just wants to escape. So, you have to trick it. Instead of a massive, overwhelming goal like studying for 5 hours, give yourself a small, unavoidable task. Tell yourself you'll study for just 5 minutes. Instead of working out for 2 hours, just commit to 10 push-ups. Or instead of finishing a whole project, just write one single paragraph. Lowering the barrier tricks your brain into starting because it sounds so laughably easy. And starting is literally the only hurdle that actually matters. Because once you begin, those 5 minutes naturally turn into 30, and those 10 push-ups almost always turn into a full workout.
The massive takeaway here is that action creates momentum, and momentum creates discipline, not motivation. You really don't need a sudden lightning bolt surge of motivation to get things done. You just need to start the engine with a tiny, ridiculous action, and then just let the resulting momentum do all the heavy lifting for you.
Which brings us to number 3, environment over willpower. We need to make discipline easier, not harder.
See, willpower is actually a terrible strategy. Why? Because it fluctuates wildly based on your mood, how hungry you are, or your stress levels. So stop forcing yourself to be mentally stronger and just change your physical setup instead. Put your distracting phone in an entirely different room while you're working. Lay your workout clothes right next to your bed before you go to sleep. Go to sleep earlier instead of doom scrolling until midnight. These deliberate physical setups prove that success is way less about having grit and much more about having good architecture.
What you're actively doing with these setups is destroying friction. And friction is just any obstacle, no matter how small, that gives you a handy excuse not to start. Having to search the whole house for your gym shoes in the early morning? Yeah, that's friction. Having your textbook buried under a pile of dirty laundry? Friction. When you remove it, the positive action suddenly becomes the path of least resistance. You're basically making the good habit easier to do than the bad one, which pretty much ensures you stay consistent even when you're completely exhausted.
All right, number 4, accept bad days. Consistency beats intensity every single time.
It's crazy how many people throw away all their progress just because they miss a single day. They skip one workout or they eat one piece of junk food, and their brain instantly goes, well, I already failed. Might as well quit the whole thing. But a single bad day does not destroy your progress. It's just a completely normal part of being a human being. What actually destroys progress is turning that one bad day into a bad month simply because you decided to throw in the towel completely. You have to remember, consistency beats intensity every single time. Real discipline isn't about maintaining some flawless, perfect streak or operating at maximum intensity 365 days a year. It's actually just the ability to forgive yourself, bounce back quickly, and keep showing up.
And finally, number 5, the power of boring. You have got to stop switching strategies all the time.
It is so incredibly easy to fall into the productivity trap. We frantically search for the perfect routine, the perfect morning habit, the perfect productivity method, or that ultimate new app that's finally going to fix our entire lives. But here is the stark truth. Most of these systems actually work. The problem is you. If you keep restarting every single week just to chase some new shiny ideal, you never actually stick with a system long enough for it to become automatic.
Boring consistency is what creates real results. You literally just need to pick a simple routine and stick with it, even when that initial excitement totally fades and it starts feeling incredibly mundane. It's just like watering a seed daily. Discipline only grows deep roots when you stick with something long enough for it to become a natural part of who you are, instead of just some exciting fad that you test drove for a week.
So that brings us to a really critical question for you to answer today. What is one small, unavoidably easy step you will take right now? The people who eventually succeed, they aren't the smartest, and they rarely have the most willpower. They're simply the ones who refuse to stop. So look at your main goal today and honestly ask yourself, how can I make my very first step so laughably small that it is literally impossible for me to fail?